We Used to Live Here by Marcus Kliewer. This is a psychological cosmic horror novel about home invaders, but it's not like a home invasion kind of horror story. This is about a young lesbian couple, Charlie and Eve. Eve is home alone one night when she hears a knock on the door. It is this family of strangers, a husband and wife, and their 3 kids. And the husband says, "I grew up in this house. Could I show my family around?" And Eve is like, "I wish you wouldn't." But she's also a big people pleaser. She's too nice, so she lets them inside. They say 15 minutes tops, just be a quick tour, then we'll be out of your hair. She says, all right, that's fine. They walk around the house, and the young daughter starts playing hide and seek and being very, very stubborn about her hiding spot and not coming out. They stay a lot longer than 15 minutes, to the point where they stay for dinner. Charlie comes home, meets the family, and is like, something's weird about these people. Eve and the father, Thomas, have some weird spooky experiences in the basement while trying to look for this child. Eventually, the child comes out of hiding. The family tries to leave. Oh no, there's a big storm. This is a really rural location. The bridge is closed down. They can't leave, so they end up spending the night. And then they don't leave. They never leave. They never leave, and things get progressively weirder and weirder. The house starts to change. Literally, the architecture of the house starts to change. People are being called by different names. Eve's phone goes missing. She goes to the neighbor's house to use their phone. The house numbers are different. Everything's very funky and weird, and this is some kind of psychological cosmic horror about alternate realities or ghosts or something. I won't spoil any more than that. It's hard to spoil this because it's weird. And I don't want to say it doesn't work as a standalone book, because it does. It's fairly satisfying. I enjoyed myself. It's weird, but it's hard to, I don't know, you don't necessarily predict what's going to come next, and you don't necessarily know all the intentions of these people, or, who they are, or, what's going on here with, this haunted house narrative. But that lack of knowing and the unanswered questions is probably the most fun part about this. Now, this book, I'm going to compare this to House of Leaves. It gets that comparison a lot. This is not as experimental or convoluted as House of Leaves, so I've heard. I've not read that. But this is a sort of baby version of House of Leaves. There are weird little hints and puzzles and clues and codes left in this book. I tandem read this on audiobook and ebook, because I got the audiobook and I was like, oh wait, this is some House of Leaves shit. So I got the ebook to reference the things, and there's sigils and weird codes and symbols that definitely are some kind of cipher that you could decipher into another language with hidden messages. After each chapter there's a word in Morse code, and if you put all of those words together, they spell out a little Easter egg sentence. I did that one. I didn't do the sigil puzzles. I looked it up online. A lot of people have a hard time with that one. This book is told in Eve's perspective, and then we get mixed media materials after each chapter, which is a random collection of random articles, Reddit posts, other things, police interviews, random things that sort of involve this house or other time periods or supernatural effects like the Mandela effect. There's a thing about a toy monkey that Eve had when she was a kid that a lot of people remember having that doesn't actually exist, never got made. What is this? There's a group sort of studying these supernatural phenomenon. These additional media things definitely tie into parts of the story, and little details overlap with parts of our main narrative here. And I think if you went back and reread this, you'd notice all those little link ups and things. This is a book you could reread several times and find more little hints and clues. But it's pretty impossible to do everything on a first read. You get most of it. It's not illegible. It's not indecipherable on a first read. This does work as a standalone book, but it's really not a standalone book. Doing research, I discovered this book started out as a Reddit serial with different weekly updated chapters or whatever. And there is still a very active Reddit community for this where they solve the puzzles. But not just the puzzles in the book. There is supplemental material here, and I don't even know where to find all that. But literally on the Reddit, I was just there. They were talking about some sort of email exchange. There's websites listed in the book that are actual websites that you can go to, the Old House Archives.com, I think, was one. It's r/Old House Archives if you want to get into the lore, the real deep rabbit holes here. This is absolutely a community who are actively like deciphering this book and this universe, because again, there's other things, and I think the book might be slightly different than like the original Reddit posts and like all of the. There's just a lot of extra supplemental material to this. I even saw like the author is like active on those Reddit threads. He was confirming and denying things. I saw something very recently, like within the last couple of days, there was like some sort of email about a job offering for like gardening services. And then if you like put in the job application, you got an email back that had Morse code, that had code with it. So this is absolutely an event. This is a thing. This is a whole thing. And some people are really looking for that. And I think that sounds really fun. Do I have the time to commit to that? Probably not. I'm probably not going to go down the giant rabbit holes. I read this book and I thought, I'll just go to Reddit and find like someone who did all the puzzles, and that'll be that. Or like there'll be a YouTube video explaining all of the puzzles and all of the theories and how everything connects. There isn't that, because there's way too much and it's still like actively happening and actively being expanded upon. I don't know if there'll be more books in this series. I heard they're making a movie. Netflix has the rights to this, and Blake Lively is attached. That'll be fun. I will watch that. But do I have the time and energy to get truly fucking invested? do I completely let this consume my mind? Probably not. I liked it, and I think all of that stuff is like really fun and interesting. There was nothing about this book that made me go, oh my god, I am obsessed with this. I am gonna work out every single puzzle by myself. I'm gonna join the community. I'm gonna get emails about gardening jobs. I'm obsessed with this, right? Like, I liked it, not that much. But again, I do think this holds up as a standalone novel. You can just read this, and you'll get a weird, creepy, psychological kind of horror about a woman whose reality is shifting. And it's like, is she crazy? Is reality changing? What is this house? Is it like haunted? Is it some sort of eldritch god thing going on? Who knows? Not me. And the book doesn't give you all of the answers. If you really want a contained book with all of the mysteries wrapped up and answered succinctly, you won't like this. But if you want something that's more open-ended, even if you don't go explore all the other stuff, like, you'll like this. And then if you do really want a book that you can fucking commit to and have a community and like people to really talk about this with, that is still active and ongoing, this would be a lot of fun. This is a really good candidate for that kind of community if you're looking for that in your media. But for the experience of reading this as a standalone novel with very little knowledge of like some of the puzzles and like all of the extra stuff, I would give this around a 3.5 kind of rating. Like, it's good, it's solid. It didn't blow me away personally. I don't know if this is really like anything new. Like, it's active and fun and engaging, and I think the community is really fun. But like, as a story, like a haunted house, creepy people who aren't who they say they are, maybe eldritch horror, changing realities. I mean, those are concepts that have been done before. I don't think this is like revolutionary, but it is a pretty good execution of it. It's fun. I see why people like it. The writing and the pacing and all that's totally serviceable. There was a couple moments that I could really nitpick if I wanted to. The book over explains things a couple of times, or like tells you things that don't need to be said because they've already been shown. Like, with Eve being sort of a pushover and a people pleaser, she keeps saying to herself, oh man, I'm such a people pleaser. But like, we can see that because she let them in, they were gonna leave, and she's like, no, wait, you can have 15 minutes in the house, it's fine. The way she just sort of acquiesces to everything these people want from her. We can see that she's a people pleaser. You don't necessarily need to tell us that again. Same with her partner Charlie, who's very skeptical. We get this backstory about Eve's uncle telling a story about meeting Mothman or whatever, and Charlie's like, that's probably an owl. Like, that picture, that looks like an owl. It's just stretched because of the camera, because it's in flight, and that noise you heard, that sounds like an owl. You can look up videos. And like, she's disproving all of it. Eve says things, and Charlie's like, is that real? Or is that your imagination? And then Eve's like, that's Charlie being skeptical. And I'm like, yeah, I can tell that Charlie's skeptical. You don't necessarily need to tell me that again. And some of those little asides almost feel irrelevant. Like that story about the uncle who thought he saw a Mothman, but it was definitely an owl. Is that relevant? Maybe it is, actually. maybe that is some like weird deep cut detail that maybe it was Mothman, and maybe there's a way to prove that with some of the extraneous files out there. Oh, this is the kind of book where, like, I guess you don't really know if things like that are important or not. While you're reading it, you kind of assume that they are. But also, while I was reading it, I was like, is this relevant? Every once in a while, she gets off on a random side tangent about her life growing up or something. And I'm like, I don't know that this is relevant, but maybe it is, actually. So I can't critique that too much. One other thing I was disappointed about, I could say, this book opens with a map of the house, which is like actually the street, because it seems like the houses are connected somehow. You'll see when you read the book. The map has little hints on how to navigate the house in like fun, interesting ways. It talks about how if you open and close this door 3 times, then you'll be transported to a different section of the building or a different building or whatever. And I thought like that's a really interesting idea, like this labyrinthine house that you could map out how to navigate. And this map isn't in the book. Like Eve doesn't have a map, and she's not making a map and like learning how to navigate the house or the neighborhood or the timelines or whatever you can navigate here. And that was kind of disappointing. She's just like running around. She has no idea what's going on. And she doesn't really like know. She doesn't become an intrepid explorer who's like actively knows what the fuck she's talking about and like knows how to navigate this and is like learning what things are. She's just flailing around. Like we're being introduced to the world through the eyes of her being introduced to the world, and she doesn't know what's going on either. And I kind of like the idea of like someone with a map. Maybe like she finds an old journal that has someone else's writings who used to live in this house talking about how they got around or like how they avoided certain things. I wanted that. I wanted her to knock on doors a certain amount of times or open doors a certain amount of times or go to this staircase at this time of day exactly and then open this door and it'll lead exactly somewhere, and like learning that sounds really cool, like a true labyrinthine kind of house, which this is apparently, but we don't get to see a lot of that, and I thought that was really interesting, so I was disappointed that wasn't included. But again, maybe future books, possibly. Not sure if the author's gonna do that. Those are nitpicks anyway. The writing's fine. This was pretty good. I read this because someone on my channel recommended that I read this. I had heard of it before, but I read it because this person reminded me that it existed, and I was like, you know what, that sounds fun right now. I didn't realize it was like a House of Leaf thing. I thought it was just like a standard standalone kind of horror novel, but no, this was way more interesting than I thought it was going to be. I can see why that commenter thought I'd be interested. I think a lot of people would be interested in this. It's very fun. Again, the community is active. There's going to be people who read this in 10 years who are going through the archives of the Old House archives and be like, man, this would have been so cool to read at the time. Or maybe it'll continue for 10 years. Maybe this author will write more books set in this universe. That's totally possible because we have like alternate realities and stuff. Maybe it'll still be ongoing in 10 years. What I think will happen is this movie will get made in a couple of years, and that'll sort of increase hype around it, and then someone will finally make a retrospective YouTube video that's like, here's all of the fucking history of We Used to Live Here. Here's every clue, every breakdown, every Easter egg. I'm going to talk about all the websites. It's going to be like a 3-hour long video explaining everything, which is probably what you were looking for when you found this video by searching for this book. Sorry, I'm not doing all that. I don't got that kind of time. But I do respect the people who do. It does look fun. Maybe in 10 years I'll regret not getting invested in this sooner. But I look forward to the movie. I like this, and I like seeing other people like it. I like reading books with active communities. I read a lot of random books that aren't that popular, and so to see a book that's like really popular and like actively being discussed and deciphered and theorized about is really fun. So I do recommend this one if you have a lot of free time to commit to it. Have a good night.